Okay, welcome everybody. Today is Thursday, March 5th, 2026, and this is the Countrywide Coordinator training with Anna Maria Reisinger. And we had a little bit of an interruption, so we started our meeting over again. Welcome
Yeah,
back, everybody.
it just goes to prove how vile these people are,
Yep.
how demented they really are. And they don't know any better. They think they're right. They think that they have some grievance that justifies that kind of behavior, when in fact, um, they're just acting out, basically acting out um, their own psychological drama. It doesn't have anything to do with us. And, that kind of abusiveness and rudeness and, um, well, it's just typical. And this is why I remind everybody that public service is a duty. It's not pleasant. There's no plums. There's no big money in it. Real public service is like this, having to put up with that kind of assault on your security and your sensitivities and everything else, you know. Um, and that's the, kind of reckless stuff that feckless, fearless Floyd puts out. That's the kind of stuff that people in the outer reaches of political insanity put out because they think we're the enemy, and never check their facts and never think anything on their own. They're brainwashed, walking, talking automatons who've been set up by ideologues, and away they go. They have no common sense and no common decency either. But anyway, after that rude interruption, as I was explaining, everybody in this country can choose whether they are going to adopt the foreign citizenship that attaches to our federal employees, or they can choose to adopt their American birthright status and standing. And the problem is nobody's been told that they have these choices. And so nobody has made any official choice. For 165 years, nobody has, well, very few people, right? Here we are, we've made our choice, but none of you, I'm sure, ever heard this from anyone. Nobody told this to you in school. Your parents didn't know it, so they couldn't tell you. And it was me who lifted my hand and said, "Hey guys, they've got us misidentified as Brits or part of the Holy Roman Empire." Time that we kind of spoke up and said, "Oh no, there's been a mistake." um, so this is the issue: is getting that information out to people. Now, obviously, there are pros and cons to each choice. Someone who wants to work for the federal government, who say wants to work for the post office, or who wants to work for the military, it sure, they get a job, they get benefits. Why wouldn't they want to work for the federal government as an employer? And so, during the time that they're working for the federal government, they adopt this foreign political status. So I'm sure, if you want to keep your job at the post office, it makes sense that you adopt the political status of a federal employee, which is a citizen of the United States. Okay. And if you want to continue working for the military, it makes perfect sense that you adopt the British subject status of a U.S. capital C citizen. But for the rest of us, it makes no sense at all, because when you adopt those foreign statuses, you also lose your constitutional guarantees, and you fall under a foreign legal system that is not very pretty. That is not our legal system. It is not common law. Okay, so there are a lot of things that you lose when you adopt one of those foreign political statuses. And we have no real reason why we would want to, generally speaking, adopt either one of those foreign citizenships. So everybody in this country has a choice to make. We need to kind of line out the pros and cons. There have been some great issues that have caused confusion, one of which is Social Security. Social Security started out as a pension program for federal employees, and nobody but federal employees or their dependents could sign up for Social Security. Well, over time, that restriction has been expanded to include anybody, and the Social Security Administration has been privatized so that it has become nothing but a private contract. Okay, so anybody can sign up for the Social Security program if they want to. They're not required to unless they work for the federal government. Okay, so I just wanted to explain that your Social Security benefit, if you are a vested member in Social Security and contributed 40 quarters to that, is not affected by your political status or your choice. It's a private deal where, just like you have an insurance on your car, it's very similar to that, where, you signed up, you paid in, and now you have this quote unquote benefit, regardless of what political status you choose. Especially those who are retirees have absolutely no obligation. So this basic information that we've been putting out here for what, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years? I've been putting it out for longer, but in this forum, the big news that you've got a choice needs to get out on the street, and people need to understand this. And what I did was to ensure that you have a choice and can continue to make that choice and can access the actual guaranteed contractual aspects of your political status as an American, which includes, among other things, not having to pay any of these taxes, and which includes not having to deal with things like CPS or the Adult Protection Service or any of this other crapola. You don't have to take vaccinations at the behest of your employees. They are put back in their box when you stand up and claim your birthright status. And more and more information has come to light about all this as time has gone on, that has verified everything I've told you. And really, that is it. I'm the doorstop. Okay? Or as I once described it, your anchor baby. You can come back home. You're not trapped in these foreign statuses. So that is what I did. And once I did that, I realized that they were trying to make off with all of our money and trying to sell our land and sell our natural resources out, or give it to their creditors, because they borrowed a lot of money they didn't have based on our assets. Okay, so they misidentified you as a British subject, took all of your property under their trust, and then when you failed to show up and claim it back and make a claim on your birthright status, well, then they just declared it abandoned and proceeded to do things like the Uranium One deal, and like the deal they were going to make where the Queen's tribute share of the gold could be extracted anywhere the Chinese wanted to extract it, and things like that. So basically, we put a stop to that. And that created all sorts of problems, but it did not create problems for you. It created problems for those who were trying to cheat you and trying to defraud you out of your birthright and trying to take your land and take your natural resources and trying to basically make you homeless and a debtor on your own soil when you had nothing to do with any of it. So you can thank your lucky stars that there were enough of us who put it together and who made this happen and who kept the door open for you, for everybody. Now, I didn't get paid for this. I've worked on this and on things associated with it for 40 years. Never got a dime for it, except whatever someone might give me as a free will donation. I never even charged for the publication of my books. I get nothing from the books. Zero. And so unless somebody gives me a share of money that they made by selling the books, I never see a dime.
Wow, I didn't know that part. That
Well,
doesn't that doesn't you should make money on your books.
I should make money on a lot of things, but I never have. And part of the reason is that we made the determination early on that we did not want to pose any obstacle to anybody getting the information. We did not want cost to be a factor. And so as much as possible, we stepped out of the way so that the books could be produced and sold without having to consider paying us. And we just did that. We gave it, literally. And so now you hear all of this stuff. Oh, well, Anna's reckless and she's unaccountable and why is there this lack of transparency? Well, what the hell do you think? There's no Congress, so there's no appropriations. Nothing to report on. No money being spent. No public money being spent. Every dime that fuels this entire operation is just grassroots, where people send donations to support it. That's it. And as for that being open to the public, well, that isn't really a very good idea, because if it were, and it's not, then our enemies could see where we were spending our money and where that was, where they need to beef up, where they need to attack. And anyway, it's obvious that we're doing the work. It's obvious that we have expenses for doing the work. So if we weren't spending it appropriately and as the prudent man standard requires, then none of this stuff would be happening, would it?
Nope.
So enough said. The transparency is right here in front of your snozola. You can see it, you can hear it, you can taste it, you can look at it, you can see the work that goes into this, and you can share in it. You are sharing in it right now. So there's nothing that's not transparent. Once you get funded, once you have books to keep, you'll make your reports, so will we. But just a second, I have to take this.
Sure. You guys, I'm just going to pause the recording while she's on the phone, okay?
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm
Michelle?
Yep.
Shannon's in the waiting room.
Oh,
Could you let him into this meeting and also, arrange for him to get into the one that was shut down?
yes. But you know what's weird, Anna, is I see people with just a first name and some names like I don't recognize. And then there's a few that say Zoom user. I don't suppose you know which one. None of them say Shannon.
Okay.
It would have a 907 phone number attached to it.
No, there's no regular phone number either. There's Zoom user several times. There it says Zoom user, but then there's Jackie without a last name, Harvey without a last name, Living Man, Riptech.
Gotcha.
Eleanor, Elaine, Janice, Claudette, Cheryl's iPhone, Tamara, Jody, another Tamara, Ricardo, and that's it.
Okay, well, he'll sign back in with his name or, you know.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay. So just be aware of that. We got folks working in the background here to make sure that whoever was responsible for that little hoax gets caught.
Awesome. Thank you. Cleaning up this planet. Okay. Like,
Yes. One trespasser at a time. So anyway, guys, there's nobody here is about money. Nobody here is about self-service. Everybody in the Federation has volunteered their time, and a lot of them have given very generously over the years of their material wealth as well. Most of us have suffered attacks for what we've done and are doing, and we have continued to sally on and do what we need to do anyway. So those evil persons who have tried to hijack our country and who have been traitors to America are not nice people. They have caused all the trouble and they've set us up as the scapegoats. They've gone and committed these crimes and blamed us and used our name and used our flag. And it's up to us to stand up and put an end to that. Okay, so spread the word, make it clear. I'm going to work up a little cheat sheet of the pros and cons of the three choices people have. And we'll go from there. All right, guys. Time for some question answering.
all right. Well, first up, we have John Russell. Go ahead, John Russell.
Good evening, Anna. How are you tonight?
Well, I'm a little stiff and sore, frankly, but I'm here.
Okay, I have a question here about the Global Family Group. Is there going to be advertising for television and radio once they get going, so our American friends out there will know that this is going to be an opportunity for them?
We are planning a couple of really large things. The initial bank services opening will go to the users. It'll go directly to you. And then after the fact, it'll be opened up for the public. I mean, the general public.
But is there going to be TV and radio advertising and letting them know? Or is it just going to be word of mouth from us?
Well, it'll probably be in the form of like events with, you know, coverage, whatever news coverage there is, that go along with the events, you see. So it'd be more like we sponsor an event, a concert or something of that nature. And we walk on the stage and we give everybody the heads up and go from there, you know, sort of like political rallies, but not political.
And I appreciate that, and I thank you. And I yield.
Thank you, John Russell. Okay, next up, we've got Todd and Julie. Oh, Anna just took a call, so hold on one second, y'all. Just in the interest of the recording, I'm going to stop the recording. All right, next up, we've got Todd and Julie.
And I really appreciate everything you do. I want to express my sincere and forever gratitude to you and your team on behalf of the Washington Assembly for the claims and the notices that you brought forward. It's truly amazing work. And again, we'll be forever grateful. My question has to do specifically with the peacekeeping people in our assembly and what types of badges they need and require, and what the material is they're made of, what are the specifications, the sizes and so forth. I'm looking at people like the sheriff, the marshal, the coroner. What information can you shed light on that? Seems timely.
Well, some of the peacekeepers, we're all peacekeepers. I mean, you know, when you step up and you join an assembly, you are basically promising to keep the peace if you don't do anything else. Okay. So we're all peacekeepers in that sense. We have a few officers, elected officers, and appointed officers too, that have badges. Now the Continental Marshals have badges, and they're about to get all of their badges. That's part of the news that I kind of didn't bring forward, but we at long last have our badges, and they're going to be receiving their badges and commissions very soon. And you'll get to see that as a kind of a event, a video event, right? So that you can be there. Then we have the equivalent of state troopers, which is our militia, the assembly militia. And the militiamen carry their own identification from their states, right? So each state will have to deal with how they're going to identify their militiamen, and you know, whether they're going to give them a badge or they're going to give them an emblem or whatever, and what kinds of offices within the militia apply. And then we have whatever other state level personnel we may appoint, hire, okay, because we have our own peacekeepers in the form of the state militia, the state assembly militia, I should say. And then we have anyone that we hire would have a designation like ranger or trooper, or maybe we should come up with a single name or designation and put that forward for everybody so that we all know what we're talking about when we have hired state level peacekeeping personnel. But they would be replacing the current state troopers, or you know, they'd be working that out. Then the sheriffs have a silver star that's pointy. It's a 5-pointed silver star with no little balls on the ends of the star arms. And that's so everybody can recognize the ultimate power that is vested in our system in the county sheriff. So he gets a silver star with no little balls on the ends of the arms of the stars, and everybody else has a 5-pointed star of some kind or badge depicting that, set in a you know, a frame or whatever that is appropriate, that has the little balls on the end of the star arms. And they're all silver. We do silver. I hope that answered.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. I appreciate that. So what about the coroner? Does the coroner have any sort of a badge or emblem that they need to show?
No, not really. They should have some, you know, like a paper commission from the state assembly that designates that they're the coroner. Otherwise, you can always give them a some sort of a badge or emblem if you want to. I have not run across any indication that coroners traditionally or customarily have a badge, not in our system, but there's no reason that they couldn't have one. Yes, there you see it. There's
Okay, yeah.
Lisa's showing our brand new badge for the Continental Marshals. And as you will see, that it's generally speaking, it's set on a 5-star, a star emblem there, right? But it has little balls on the ends of the star arms, and that's how you can tell whether they're operating under delegated or non-delegated power. The sheriff is operating under non-delegated power, and the in this case, the Continental Marshals are operating under delegated power. And that power, of course, is delegated by the people in the state.
Okay, excellent. I have one follow-up question to a comment you made last week regarding medical doctors and their ability to sign or autograph a declaration of life type document. If they've retired their commission as a doctor, you mentioned that they are still able to serve in that capacity. Does that mean they can also continue to autograph a declaration of life, even though they are not practicing their medical activities?
Right. Once you are a medical doctor, you've passed all of your exams and everything. You have your standard is more than proven. You don't have to go back and do anything more. If you've retired and released your license and your state or federal credentials to be a medical doctor, you're still a private physician. So when you come over to our system, you're a private physician, but you still have all of the skills and abilities, and you're still an expert witness of such things as life or death. So when you transfer into our system, the lawful as opposed to the legal system, the verbiage changes, or it becomes somewhat inverted. But if you're working and you're providing services to us, you're operating as a private physician. If you are working for the military, you're working as a medical doctor. We had an interesting little dust up with the judge in their system this week, where he tried to tell us that there was no such thing as American state nationals or state nationals in general. And we told him, well, there's no such definition in federal code, but then there is such a definition in American law. You know, this is our custom and tradition. It's separate from yours, and we have different language, we have different offices, we have different powers. And one of the things is that, yes, we have American state nationals, or more generally, you could just call them state nationals, as opposed to federal nationals, US nationals. But they too have nationals. They have to, in order to maintain their structure and their contracts and financing. And they buried it all behind legislation that was set up to provide a political status to American Samoans. They buried it that deep, but it nonetheless is there, and we are nationals of a state with a small s. Now, there are 2 places in federal code that stipulate what a national is, and it basically both say the same thing. They say the term national in quotation marks, and it's being used as a legal term at that point, right? It's a true definition, it can't be altered, is a person with a permanent allegiance to a state with a small s. And we are the true physical states. And we are the true states of the Union, not to be confused with insular states, which they then go on and redefine differently. You can look this up in the international codexes and in the Immigration and Naturalization Act, the INA. And if you look up the International Immigration and Naturalization Act, which covers all of these different designations, it's section 101. Let's see here. I was just looking at that not too long ago. Even look here. Yeah, section 101A01 defines state with a small s. And then they turn around and at section 101A36, they define state with a capital S for the purposes of the federal government. And the first one is what we are. We are we're the ones that have an allegiance to the a permanent obligation to the small state, the small s state. And then it goes on and it explains that the word state with a capital S in their system refers to what we call the U.S. possessions that are affiliated with Britain, and that would be the American Virgin Islands, Guam, Puerto Rico. So they're insular states, and they list them out right there, which ones carry that status. So in their system, capital S indicates that you're resident in the U.S. possessions, and the small s indicates that you have a permanent affiliation with a state of the Union or a non-British insular state. Because even among the possessions, there's a difference between those who live apart from the British system and those that joined the British system or inherited the British system. So yeah, you can look that up in the INA section 101A, and then it's the very first definition, and then the 36th definition will show you that. This is important, as it turns out, because the international version of the Immigration and Naturalization Act covers all the different possible statuses that you could have in their terms and their language. And it's like a translation of any foreign language. Think of federal code as a foreign language. And no, they don't have all the same words and terms that we have, and we don't have all the same words and terms that they have. But in order to communicate with each other, you have to be aware of their definition versus our definition. You see? So you can look at the INA and see what their definition is, and you can feed it back to them. You can talk to them in terms of their definitions, because that's the only definitions they know. We have to know both.
Yes, thank you. And this is the kind of information that we need to pass on to our governors who are pretending to be our government. Thank you very much, and I will yield.
Sure.
Thank you, Jean. Okay, Rocky Roper, go ahead, Rocky.
Hello, Anna. Remember I talked to you about getting a new passport, whatever. I just got it, and I want you to look at it because it's just kind of strange to me. I don't know. Let's see. Can you see this?
Yeah, that does look kind of strange.
You notice it's got the Federation seal on it, not circled, but it's in black and white, except the picture up front is in color where you sign.
Yeah, well, they're trying a different way to say the same thing.
And then this is the passport card. You see how my picture is in black and white?
Yep.
So does that mean they think I'm dead, or is that, you know, Some kind of symbol to them?
That allows them to recognize themselves, and they're basically, you know, putting everybody in the same basket again. The new passports that I've seen, and I'd appreciate it if you turn over to the endorsement page. There's a page in the passport where there's a bunch of verbiage.
Well, will you sign it?
I believe it's actually the next page over where there's an endorsement page. There's
Well, I don't know if you can see this. That's
yes.
the first page.
Okay, yes.
And
Okay.
then the page I showed you, which is this, you endorse it there.
Right. Okay, turn it back to the first page so everybody can see what we're talking about. Now, if you look underneath the symbol, and you'll see that the word national appears, it should appear in that first paragraph.
Okay.
But right in that whole verbiage there, the word national is an option in the passport language.
Okay.
And that's, you know, just more proof that, yes, nationals exist. Only
Right.
by national, they mean a
If you can see
different
better.
thing than we do.
It's reversed is the whole point. But yeah, it's just
Do you want to read that paragraph, Rocky?
underneath the seal.
Yeah, the one where it refers to national that Anna is talking about.
Says Secretary of State of the United States of America hereby request all whom is or may concern to permit citizen national of the United States named herein to pass within delay or hindrance, and in any case of need to given all lawful and aid and protections. So it does say citizen / national.
Right. So that's where we are. We are nationals. They mean something different by generally speaking than we do. But
Right.
they still have to honor the fact that we are nationals with our allegiance to a state of the union, a state. Okay.
Okay.
Now I just saw some incorrect information flash by in the chat. The balls on the ends of the stars does not mean captured.
Uh-huh.
It means that they're functioning under delegated powers. And if you think about it, all delegation of powers, including those under Article or Amendment 10 of the federal constitutions, are delegations. The Union of States and the Federation and the Confederation, all of those are instrumentalities of the states.
Uh-huh.
So as a result, anybody that's working at an international level is operating under powers that were delegated by the states and people.
Right.
So that's what the balls on the ends of the star shapes. Yeah. And
Yeah,
our sheriffs, our county sheriffs do not have balls on the ends of the stars.
Yeah, we have a design for ours, but I can't find anybody to make them. I have the silver and everything, but if later I'll email you, and if you can try to get me in contact with somebody.
We'll hook you up.
Huh?
We'll hook you up.
Okay. Yeah, I need, sheriff's badges for, 17 counties, and I need deputies, so badges. But we have the silver and everything. We just need a place to do it.
Okay.
And we already have a design. I'll send you the design too, so you can see what it looks like. But it doesn't have balls or anything. It's just points.
Yeah, that's the way the sheriff's stars are. They have points. They have points for a reason, because they are not functioning under delegated power. They are functioning with direct power.
Right.
And that's why they are the top peacekeeping officials in the country.
Mm-hmm. One last thing before I go here is we have in the Southern Nevada here, we only have 2 recording secretaries. One of them is possibly going to leave and leave us with 1. And we want to know, we've had 3 people go through training and everything, but we can't get them on account. Can you help me with that later?
Yeah, that's a Terry thing, but yeah, I'll talk about it.
But anyway, you don't have to answer that now, whatever. I'll send you an email
Okay,
to let other people talk. Thank you very much.
okay,
Goodbye.
take care.
Thank you, Rocky. Okay, Brad, you're up.
Hey, good evening, Anna. How are you?
Doing okay so far.
Good
I
to
think.
see you as always. Couple questions for you. Once the Continental Congress and our head of states get in place, what happens with the de facto president, Congress, judiciary branches? What happens with them?
Well, if we maintain the constitutional structure and simply restore it, then they continue to function within their own sphere. And we then take up our rightful position and have our own exercises of power. The way that the founders set this up, there's checks and balances all across the board. And when those checks and balances are functioning, it keeps them in within the box that they're supposed to occupy instead of rampaging around causing trouble. And so that's something that everybody's got to think about going forward is, do we keep the same constitutional structure that we've had?
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, the Constitution is based on agreements that were made to end the War of Independence. That was a long time ago. And those treaties can be renegotiated. If they're violated, they can be overturned for cause, like any agreement. Certainly, when the Continental Congress comes to grips with it, I think there will be more than enough evidence that both the active federal subcontractors betrayed their trust and basically failed their contract.
Mm-hmm.
So that is basis to go back and revisit the treaties and either overturn the treaties or renegotiate them.
Okay, that makes sense. A few weeks ago, you talked about we, have the ability to fire governors. You said, we had to come up with evidence. What happens once we get that evidence? What's the process to get them out?
Well, basically, you've got a number of different options, but the most efficient way to do it is to have the coroner for the state assembly declare him incompetent.
Okay. All right. Last question tied to that. What, we're trying to figure out how to enforce our directives to the de facto. Any insight into that? I feel like the notices and stuff just go on deaf ears with them.
Well, that's why we've gone after their money. That's why we've gone after the purse strings, because that's the sure way of getting their attention.
Okay.
And that really, in the end of it, if you want to bring an end to their rampages, just seize hold of control of their money, and then they have to come back to the bargaining table and sit down and get serious about upholding their performances.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Anna. I appreciate it, and I yield.
Take care.
All
You
right.
too.
Sorry about that. Elvia, you're up.
Hi, Anna. I had a question because you said something about we don't have to participate in Social Security benefits so that we don't have to pay the taxes in order to participate in those benefits. But I applied for long-term disability, and as part of that application, I also had to apply for the SSI is Social Security Insurance Disability Benefit, which is the federal, and they ask for tax returns
Well,
to verify income.
I don't know what to tell you about that. If you don't have any income, you don't have any tax returns. It's kind of a push me, pull you situation. Obviously, if you've been unemployed for a period of time, and they have a record of your, you wouldn't have, how far back do they want tax returns anyway?
A prior year, because it takes a year for them to give you the initial review. It takes about a year, and they are asking for tax return for the previous year.
Yeah,
May
well,
I?
you wouldn't have any.
Anna,
Yeah, sure.
may I? So, Elvia, if you worked in the last year, all you would have to do is go back to your employer and request a wage statement because that's all they're looking for. You don't have to provide them a tax return, just a wage statement. Okay?
Okay,
And
okay,
if you weren't working, obviously you had no income, so that's the rest of it.
okay.
Someone
Wage
was
statement
trying,
sounds good.
one of the complete idiots at DOJ was asking me questions about federal income. I said, I haven't had any federal income since 1996. That's, the very first and only check I ever got from Uncle Sam came in 1996. I took a picture of it to memorialize the event. So that's it. And I paid taxes on that. And that was it. And I didn't even, I made so little money that year because that was the year that our house burned down, that it didn't even qualify for taxation of any sort. Anyway, long story short, that's what Uncle Sam gave me. All the rest has been going the other way. It was all the rest of it has been me giving to Uncle Sam.
Well, you know what they do, Anna, right? If you have a job like anywhere, okay, they take your name, right? And anything else that you have that has the same name, it could be your house, it could be your bank account, it could be your car, whatever. They think that it's theirs. So even though we've done our status correction and all of it, they really, I mean, these threats are real. I mean,
Of course they are. Of course they are. And I've experienced it myself. But you have to go back in, you have to overturn it, you have to play their stupid game. You have to bring in the US Secretary of State's office. It has to be a diplomatic thing. It can't be addressed through the courts unless you take it all the way to the Supreme Court. If you get it all the way to the Supreme Court, they're going to look at it, they're going to listen to you, and they're going to go, oh shit. Because it's happened over and over and over again. They just don't make those cases public because if they did, then they wouldn't be able to operate.
yeah.
And this is coming down to the point where they can't operate because, for example, all of the land that they have held in their land trust is not theirs. And they've been notified that it's not. So, they're in a very precarious position in terms of being able to operate at all.
Yeah.
And, everybody keeps doing this, so that they're being brought to term with all of these different false claims they've made. And most of it's been false claims in commerce. And what it derives from is that, okay, they do these services. You only owe them for 18 enumerated services, right?
Right.
But their own employees owe them for everything, all of the expenses. So you might, at the end of the year, you might owe them maybe $2,000 for snow removal. Okay. Meantime, they owe you $2 billion because they've never paid you and they didn't pay your parents, and they didn't pay your grandparents. You see, it's just totally, totally out of whack because there was never any accounting for them. There was never accounting for your credit for the goods and services that you were delivering in response to their Federal Reserve notes. Well, so you bring the credit side of the ledger back and balance the books, and it's pretty damn clear who the debtor is, isn't it? even if you have to go through 2 layers of debtors, which is what we wind up doing, they still owe us a tremendous amount of money above and beyond what we owe them at all times. And so that's why the mutual offset credit exemption exchange exists, is so that we could offset a debt, our debt against their debt.
Mhm.
See? So anyway, it gets kind of convoluted because there are 2 different, sometimes 3 or 4 different sets of these public employees that are coming at you for their pay, right? And you have the option of either paying them in their own debt, which is in effect a credit for them, or doing the MOXIE. And of course, they try to keep us from doing the mutual offset credit exemption exchange because that does not extend them new credit. That offsets existing credit that they owe. So you see, that's why that was set up the way that was. And because they haven't actually set up a program for the mutual offset credit exchange exemptions, they did not actually deliver the remedy that they promised for the Federal Reserve note system, which means the whole thing is illegal and has been from the start. Failure to provide the remedy and to provide access to the remedy is equivalent to there being no remedy. Therefore, the remedy that was supposed to legalize their Federal Reserve note system was never provided. It remains illegal. I hope
Boom.
that helps.
That's awesome. Thank you, Anna. That's going to be a great clip right there to help people understand about the debt swap. Yeah, and the mochi. So yeah, thank you. Elvia, anything else for Anna? You're muted, Elvia. All right.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't know how to unmute myself. Yeah, it's just that I am finding out that because I revoked my taxpayer status back in, I think it was 2016, but I continued to work between 2016 and 2025. So there is income reported, but there are no taxes to go with that income.
Well, you don't have to pay taxes if you're an American. That's one
Right.
of the benefits of being an American. You don't pay taxes.
Right. Yeah, I can say that until I turn blue and
Well,
drop dead on the floor.
well, I'm getting ready to kind of line out that whole argument for you. So when do you have to have this in or settled or whatever?
Well, they gave me until May 1st, but I objected to it and I escalated to the legal counsel and I demanded evidence that the only proof of income that they are accepting is tax return, that W-2s and pay stubs are insufficient. So I demanded formal written evidence that this is the only proof that they will accept. And I gave them 7 days to respond. So we'll see. We'll
Okay.
see. Yeah.
Well, kind of keep me up to speed here. It's going to take me longer than 7 days to get what I'm put together, but essentially it's already been proven. And we don't have to rely on what they think or what they say because it's already there in the law.
Mm-hmm.
So give me a couple of weeks.
Sure. Anna, I do have a question that I'm confused about. There's an aspect of these tax returns that I am confused about. I did some consultancy work back in 2024, which was short-lived. It was only for 4.5 months because the company demanded that I have an LLC. So I created an LLC just for that particular contract. It was not a W-2 contract. So the LLC is a partnership and it's unincorporated, so they say. But the LLC should still pay taxes, and the distributions to me will have to go on a personal tax return. So I'm confused about the distributions to me on the personal tax return, am I required to pay that as well? Am I required to pay that because I use the partnership or not?
If you're the partner, then actually it's self-employment. But that's the sort of thing that you should ask a tax consultant, somebody who does this for a living, because that's their system. You entered their system, and that's why the LLC owes the money. See, the LLC was created using their system.
Right. So I did consult with with an accountant. He said that the LLC is a pass-through. It's an unincorporated. They consider that whatever the LLC earned, it's me who earned it. They
Right.
consider that it passes through me. So if the LLC did, I don't know, $1,000, then they could see it as I earned $1,000.
Right, and they see you as a British subject, so then they want to collect. And they look at that as self-employment.
So if I am an American and I have the LLC report what it owes and whatever is passed on to me, that would be an American that earned it, no? No?
No, because you earned it through a British entity.
So I still have to pay it, then I have to report that.
Yes.
Okay.
If,
Right.
if you had a totally unincorporated, undefined business, just a mom and pop business, Elvia and Sons,
Bagel store.
yeah, right. Then they couldn't touch you. But when
Except
you use one of their constructs, one of their business models, then they have a right to assume things and presume things and to meddle with you and to hold you accountable to their 80 million statutes.
Right.
That's what binds you, is when you enter into their system and do
Yeah.
business on their terms as one of them, as one of their merchants, then you're
Right. And they will not allow you to do your own business without getting some kind of a charter. They won't allow you. They'll force you to incorporate.
You don't have to incorporate. They have no basis to force you to do any of that. That's completely inappropriate and improper for them to even ask.
The people that you do business with will not do business with you unless you do that. There's some companies that will not hire you, will not give you a job unless you do that.
There may be, but that's their problem. They're probably getting federal money, and that's why they're doing that. They're getting some sort of contract or kickback from the government, and so that's why they're making that demand.
Yeah.
So the answer is to go into business for yourself, be totally apart from that system, and set yourself free. As things get straightened around here and our money comes back to us and we have control of our money and we have our own banking system, they won't be able to pull this crap anymore. But what they just did to you with that was an obstruction of trade, and it's against the law. They all need their asses kicked. Okay. They all seriously need to be.
All right. Well, thank you. That was my only question. Thank you.
Thank you, Elvia. And just on that note, right before we go to Loretta, you know what else they do, Anna, is municipalities require business licenses, right? So like the banks won't open up a bank account unless your business has a license. It's like they've got you like all the different ways, so, but you're right. I mean, if there's a way that people could have their own mom and pop shops and just deal with the regular public and not need, bank accounts and other ways,
Well, I've got news for them. Number one, the municipality, according to our constitutions, our customs, traditions, and law, is supposed to be limited in its actions within the District of Columbia.
Yes, that's right.
So they have no right to be here. And the British territorial subcontractors had no right to invite them into our states of the Union.
So
There is not a damn thing anywhere allowing the British territorials to invite the municipal government in.
So do you think that noticing the municipalities that they're acting unlawfully because they don't have permission from the people to require licenses and all these things with that?
The
No?
Pope knows this. The Roman civil government knows this. They all know it. The moment that have you ever had a toothache?
Yes.
A really, really bad toothache?
Fortunately, yes.
The moment that I mention the fact that there shouldn't be any municipal government entities established on the states of the Union, it's like taking an ice pick and jabbing it into that sore tooth for them. They, you know, they know that they should have no municipal franchises operating as city-states or cities or any of that. They know that they are not only on thin ice, they're on no ice contractually. Okay, so just bring that up repeatedly. You're here for you've been invited here improperly, incorrectly, unlawfully, illegally by the British territorial government. You're not supposed to be here.
They make it look like the counties chose to incorporate under the state.
Well, they might have, but does that mean that you incorporated under the state? Was that your county at that point, or did they cease to be your county?
It ceased to be our counties.
Yep, the moment that they took the bait and voted to become the county of
Borough or the borough.
Or the borough, any of that. The moment any of that happened, they ceased to represent you. So, and they should not be here. Under international law, the municipal governments that are scattered here, there, and everywhere, and all these municipal corporations that are operating outside actual federal facilities should not be here. It doesn't matter what they think or what they say. They have no power to unilaterally contract on the land and soil. All this stuff is just loony. It's all ignorance. It's all self-service. It's just, they're interpreting things that they have no right to interpret because nobody has been standing here and saying, no, and furthermore, no, and no, that's not allowed either. And oh, by the way, don't let the screen door hit you on the way out. And that's what we all need to do is, just realize what the contract says and enforce it. And, it's the enforcement part. It's like they stand there and they say, well, what are you going to do about it? Well, I'm not going to bother with you. I'm going to go after the frickin' banks that are illegally allowing you to access my credit and illegally securitizing my assets and misrepresenting me and trying to steal the identity of this whole damn country. Yes, I'm going to go after the banks. And when I get finished with the banks, and the banks are sitting there like so many beetles on their back with, dying with their little legs going like this, I'm going to tell you, oh, I'm sorry, you don't have any more credit. If you want any credit at all, you're going to have to borrow it from the King of England. But the King of England isn't really the King of England. He's the British monarch. And the British monarch has fallen on hard times.
So aren't the companies and the insurance companies that are demanding you to have tax returns, aren't they also interfering with your right to trade?
Yes.
Yes, they are. And they're doing it privately by contract with you. Okay, if you get private insurance, that indicates that you need private insurance. Okay,
they don't ask you. They don't ask you. The employers, they are the ones who compel you.
Does it make any sense to you that you have to buy a product? Doesn't that, encroach upon your freedom? Doesn't that obstruct your choices in life? And how are they doing this? They're doing this by mistaking you for one of them, by subjecting you to a foreign law. You know, they need private insurance because their employer does not insure them. We don't need private insurance because we have, guess what? Indemnity. And so we don't need private insurance. We already have all insurances and more than anything that they could ever provide. And that's another thing they know. Just, you know, that ice pick and the sore tooth. Just mention that to them. By the way, we have absolute indemnity. That's the truth. That's part of their whole thing that they had to do to legalize their operations here and legalize all of the crimes that they've committed in obstruction of trade. They've run this entire country like a completely enclosed monopoly. They've run this entire country as if it were a base camp for the military. That's how they've run the Federal Reserve note scam. I'll tell you something about the military. Since Roman times, soldiers have been paid not with money, but with things. The Roman soldiers were paid in salt, not Roman denarii, not coinage. They were paid with little pouches of salt.
Oh.
And that tradition of paying soldiers with vouchers, coupons, in Germany, they call it Soldatengeld. Okay. The Federal Reserve notes are Soldatengeld. They're like a coupon. The French call them coupons. The British, I believe, call them vouchers. It's not actual money. It's not silver. It's not gold. It's a private script that functions like money for the purposes of the soldiers. Okay, so the Federal Reserve note is it was a script, a military script that was issued by the Federal Reserve banks. We have been under an illegal armed occupation by mercenary forces since 1861. I keep saying this, but it just kind of goes bing, bing, bing. You know, people think, wait a minute, those are our, no, they're not. They work for whoever employs them. And they're British. And the British are not fulfilling their obligations under the Constitution. So there you have it in a nutshell. Federal Reserve notes are a military script issued by private banks, a cartel of private banks. Now, do they have a right to issue their own script? Well, the banks can issue a script, but does the military have a right to order up its own federal script and pay themselves with it? No, they don't. That's why the British are the paymasters for the military. That's why a British company, Serco, is the paymaster of the US military. Now think about that. What kind of country allows its armed forces to be paid for by a foreign country? Obviously a country that's been dead asleep for a long time, because nobody in their right mind would allow that. And why in the hell should it be that we would have a British paymaster when we're an American? Why can't we have an American paymaster? Oh, imagine it. Wake up, folks. I've been saying this for I don't know how many years. What in the hell is a British corporation acting as paymaster for our supposedly military? And that situation in the Mideast is just more, it's just absolutely more proof that what I'm telling you is true. The Brits own most of the Middle East. because they got in there back in 1908, just as they did all over the place in the Commonwealth, and they insidiously got their little middleman position in place. You know, I recently said Britain took over Iran in 1908. They have been responsible for absolutely every change of government ever since, including this attempt. And the part of the US in all of this is to act as their subcontractor. So you've got Britain, you've got Rome, and you've got Israel paying Donald Trump to come in there and use our sons and daughters, use our equipment, ships that we bought and paid for, to go over there as mercenaries and attack Iran. Okay, so he goes over there and tries to overthrow the Ayatollahs that were put in place by Britain. It was Britain that deposed the Shah. It's been Britain every step of the way that's done everything in Iran. They put the Ayatollahs in power. Now it's a question of whether they can take the Ayatollahs out of power. And they're trying to use us to do the dirty work. And Donald Trump went right along with it, stumbled right into the trap. He doesn't care about America. Make America great again. What does America get out of this? Nothing but a black eye and high oil and gas prices. Who does that benefit? Big oil and the Arabs. Okay. Meantime, our own oil and gas resources sit idle in the ground. We can't even fill our own gas tanks because these mercenary yahoos have taken over to such an extent. And yet we're supposed to go out and wave a war flag and support this? No, we don't support this. We go right up front and say, that's not us. They're using our Title IV flag illegally. It has nothing to do with defending our country. They're under contract with the Brits and the Romans and the Israelis. They're working on a moonlight job. They went into business for themselves, okay? They opened up business for themselves on the side. This may be their major contract, but they took on other jobs. So they're over there working for Britain, Israel, and Rome. They ought to be flying those flags, not our Title IV flag. And Trump is trying to, string along this diaphanous excuse and saying that this is to defend America. America doesn't need any defense except against people like him and against the whole military-industrial complex that's responsible for this. He should not be flying our flag. He should be flying the British Union Jack or the Israeli flag or whoever the hell's flag, but he shouldn't be using ours for that purpose because it stipulates in his contract that that is not the deal. It takes an act of Congress to declare war. It's not something that a president can do. There is not a single word in any constitution that gives Donald Trump the right to declare war. There was never anything that allowed Lincoln to declare war. Therefore, the only thing that they can declare and make stick is a mercenary conflict. And mercenary conflicts, folks, are illegal. And now I've got another little insight for you. Not only does it require an act of Congress to declare war, it's supposed to be our Congress, our American Congress declaring war, not their British territorial makeshift, not a Holy Roman municipal Congress, okay? It's supposed to be our American Congress that declares all wars. Anything else is just a mercenary conflict. It's murder for hire. It's illegal. What they've been doing here since 1861 is illegal and unlawful. And nobody wants to say that for fear that we'll be left undefended. But at any rate anymore, what are we to be defended from? Robbers? Oh, well, they rob us every day. Brigands? Oh, well, they steal from us too. Pirates? Oh, yes, if we do anything in maritime commerce, we're going to be fleeced blind. They're not protecting us. They're oppressing us. They are in gross breach of trust. And they've been in gross breach of trust for 165 years. You know, once you see that and see it plainly and can enunciate it, then this whole situation in the Mideast is crystal clear. Mr. Trump is trying to pretend it has something to do with defending us, but it doesn't. His apologists are trying to say that this breaks Britain's monopoly on shipping, particularly oil shipping, because Iran, under the influence of the Brits, was closing the Straits of Hormuz and causing trouble for the rest of the world, and was rigging commodity prices for oil and gas through Iran. Remember, Britain put the Ayatollahs in charge. Britain continues to control and wheedle and manipulate things in the Middle East. So every time you see something crazy, you know, don't even stop, don't even look, just swivel 180 degrees and point at Britain, because that's where the trouble is going to lie, predictably, something like 96% of the time. So the Brits put the Ayatollahs in charge. The Ayatollahs, at British influence, shut the Straits of Hormuz. This causes the flow of gas and oil out of the Middle East to be restricted, and that means the supply is restricted, which means that the gas pumps, suddenly you're paying $10 a gallon for gas, while your own gas and oil sits in the ground. They've had this nice little game going on for a long time. Now, the only question is, now that we've seen that the Ayatollah Khomeini was not killed by the airstrikes, is whether the Ayatollah can turn it into something that really is Iranian, something that really is separate from Britain's power hold. And as for Donald Trump, he should have done what he promised to do. He should have developed our gas and oil and our refinery system. He should have built the goddamned wall. Where's that,
Anna, aren't the elite families that are in charge of the world, aren't they ancient Iranians?
No. No. They're Italians.
That came from Iran.
No, not necessarily. They came from the East, okay? But most of them are Trojans. They're Turkish.
The Zoroastrian priests and the papacy.
Well, no, the Zoroastrian priesthood believes in something totally different. The Zoroastrians have a very ancient faith in, I don't know if you could even call it a faith. It's more like a science. The Zoroastrians see things in terms of burning away falsehood. I mean, you can look at life in terms of embroidering what's here, adding to whatever's here, but the Zoroastrians look at it in terms of burning everything away to its essentials and to the ultimate singular truths of existence, whatever that truth may be. Okay, so the original religions of the world all had this in common, is that they were devoted to truth, only truth. And to discovering truth was the hermetic pursuit, that you pursued truth. And that's what the entire Zoroastrian religion is about. They don't worship gods and goddesses. They don't have a god per se. They study the stars. They study nature. They study human interactions and you know what we are, but they don't worship the way modern day religions worship things. And so Zoroastrianism is a throwback to the very most ancient form of spiritual practice that was ever put together on this planet that we know of. And it is a love of truth and only truth. They don't embroider anything at all. In fact, their whole process is to reduce things down to the simplest and most truthful elements, and then to put your backing behind that. It's the total absolute opposite of Roman Catholicism. It's the opposite of Judaism with its hundreds of dietary laws and all the rest of that. You see, everybody else, all these other religions have been adding on to creation and taking man's veneer and putting man's veneer over everything. The Zoroastrians take it the opposite way, and they say, okay, well, we're going to clear off all of this stuff that's been layered on top, and we're going to look at what's true and only honor and worship, in whatever sense, what's true. So they cut away stuff. They take the 80 million different laws of man, throw that out the window, and they concentrate on what's true. And so the Zoroastrians were the ones that came up with do no harm as the only law. If you do no harm, there's no reason for you to be punished or questioned or anything, as long as you're not harming somebody or harming their property. Do no harm. It is the most fundamental law there is, and the Zoroastrians came up with that thousands of years ago. So there's no incense, to fill the air and cloud your vision. Clarity is the utter pursuit of the Zoroastrians, and there are damn few of them left. And they're a world treasure is what they are, but they're being killed by these madmen that want to have world domination when they can't even clean their own bathrooms. These people are despicable, like what we saw tonight. Hateful, despicable, deluded, immoral,
Deranged.
Yes. Yes. And so all these different bickering religions, that's all just mankind's stupidity. The 80 million laws and statutes, more stupidity. The only law that we really need to get along is do no harm, and that's been there, set in place for thousands of years, and nobody can have sense enough to just simply honor it. Think about it. There I am sitting in my house, which I earned and which I built and which I don't owe a penny on to anybody. Did I deserve to have armed robbers come to my house and throw me out and claim that I owed them money when in fact they owe me money? If they were simply observing do no harm, there would be nothing like that going on. Such things wouldn't even exist. Yes, and so they try to destroy the Zoroastrians in the name of Allah, or in the Brits' case, in the name of Mammon. And all that is men's stupid imaginations run wild and in their own self-interest. Disgusting. It's just absolutely disgusting. And we have to wake up. We have to wake everybody up. Somehow we have to spread the news, spread the word. It's just cuckoo. It's just crazy making. It makes no sense. And here these sanctimonious hypocrites are talking about law and justice. Right?
Yeah, the hypocrisy is mind-numbing. Yeah.
Right. So, time for us to wake up. Time for us to, start doing what has to be done, which is first and foremost to think and observe. These poor people being told that Donald Trump was anointed to start a war with Iran and bring on Armageddon. Well, the poor stupid dweebs obviously haven't read their Bibles, or they would know that they're being asked to participate in a narrative in which they get killed and the Russians win. Why not just have a war and don't come? Send over a piece, one of these cardboard stand-ups, Colonel McGregor. There, go ahead, knock him down. Have your Armageddon. Fulfill your biblical narrative. Try to convince everybody that God is doing this. God isn't doing this. A bunch of self-interested, crooked bastards are doing this. They're using everybody else to play out their narrative, their story. And then they're going to sit there and try to palm it off and say that it's real. It's not real. It's ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. And they're using our flag to do it. If that doesn't offend you to the marrow, it should. They're using our sons and daughters under false premises. There isn't a single member of the military that was ever told that they were signing up for mercenary duty. Not a single man in the entire time, not a single woman in the entire time from 1861 to this day were they ever told that they were signing up for mercenary service. I defy you to find me anyone in our military who was ever told that as they were signing the induction paperwork.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. They were never told.
They were never told.
Because
they were used as
they would turn around, hightail it out of there because they think they're signing up to serve Americans, and they think that what they're doing is a patriotic thing, which you got to love them for that, right? That they.
Oh, I do. Yeah. I love our guys, but I hate the politicians. I hate the British government. I love the British people. I hate the British government. I love every sincere Catholic in the whole wide world, and I absolutely hate the hierarchy that has created the evils of this world. And that's the problem. We've all been what's the word? We've all been bamboozled. We've all been conned, and evil men have taken over these institutions and just railroaded everything and everyone. So here we are, we're being occupied by our own mercenaries, and they're extracting their pay and their joys and their toys out of our flesh and out of our land and out of our money by misrepresenting us and by rampaging around and taking jobs on the side and flying our flag and claiming that it has something to do with defending America when it's on the other side of the world and has absolutely nothing to do with defending us. Trump took a side job. He's out there moonlighting, putting other people's lives at stake, putting other people's equipment and ammo at stake, putting someone else's flag at stake. This isn't hard to understand. They hire out to these other countries or even to big oil or anybody that's got enough money, Palantir, BlackRock, they'll hire out to anybody. They hired out to the French government in Vietnam. They hire out as mercenaries, get paid, And then they claim that it has something to do with defending us, no matter how vague that may be, or how tenuous there may be any connection to us. And they charge us for their expenses for the job.
Billions.
So they're right now over there, they're being paid by the Israelis and the Brits and the Romans to go do this to Iran. And when they come back over here, they're going to say, oh, didn't we do such a fine job defending you from, whatever evil was supposedly lurking in Iran? And oh, by the way, here's the cost of all that defending you. They're raking it in from both sides. And then they're turning around and using that to coerce you, to block trade, to obstruct trade, to misrepresent you, to mischaracterize you, to mischaracterize your country. How does this make it look? It is an absolute travesty. They've been sitting there, sitting on Iran and saying, oh no, you can't have a nuclear bomb. You can't have a nuclear bomb. Why not? Pakistan has a nuclear bomb. India has a nuclear bomb. Indonesia has a nuclear bomb. What they're doing is illegal. They are interfering in the sovereign rights of another country. They're a bunch of frickin' mercenaries using and abusing our Title IV flag, making it look like we're doing it. And they are trespassing on the sovereignty of Iran. They're nothing but a commercial corporation, folks. That's all they've ever been. And they're over there as mercenaries, plugging the bloody hell out of a sovereign country that has every right to develop a nuclear bomb or do whatever the hell else it wants. Does everybody realize that Donald Trump illegally, unlawfully, immorally violated the United Nations Charter? Iran's sovereignty is guaranteed under the United Nations Charter. So that dumb bastard, using our flag as a false flag, by the way, violated everything. Violated the UN Charter, violated the international law, violently trespassed against Iran's sovereignty, and he put us on the hook for it by using our flag improperly. Now, I defy anybody. Here's an open, I'll give anybody a reward. Can't stipulate how much, but I'll make it worthwhile. If you can show me any proof that our American sailors and soldiers and airmen were told that they were signing up for mercenary service, and if you can show me how what Trump is doing in Iran right now defends this country.
I don't hear anything.
This does not defend our country. That word defend is important. Our founders put it there for a reason. It makes it impossible for them to do offensive actions like this without a very clear connection to defending our country. So they want to say that Iran's government fosters terrorism. Well, Iran's government is under the thumb of the British, so the British sponsored terrorism. There you have it. The Brits again, at the bottom of the dog pile. And we're left with the old dichotomy here. They're either stupid, ignorant, or they're crooks. Which is it? Do we give them the benefit of the doubt that they're just clueless? Or do we look at it and say, no, they had to know that. They're crooks.
Yeah, they have too many generations and too many countries where they've done this to them that there would be no way that they don't know what they're doing.
Besides which, we have General Wesley Clark, bragging that they were going to take 7 countries in 5 years. So they're getting us to pay for all this, but who's paying them for the initial service? Who's starting the wheel? Who's priming that pump? My bet is Pepe Orsini or someone like him. Or Jacob Rothschild's line of, somebody primed that pump and gave Netanyahu the money to do it. Somebody is paying for that mercenary contract. And we're going to find out who's paying that mercenary contract to Donald Trump. That isn't even a doubt. Folks, we have been disserved on such an absolutely gargantuan scale that if we sat here all night and just came up with examples, it still wouldn't begin to explain it all. But the Union Jack should be flying on Trump's mastheads, not the American flag. And we shouldn't be charged for the cost of anything that they are doing now because they're moonlighting. They should be paying their own operational expenses and adding that to the cost of their service package. And they also need to be admitting to the world and to their employees that this is a mercenary service and that when they sign up to serve in the U.S. Armed Forces, they are signing up as mercenaries. And the rest of the world needs to know that this is a false flag event. No American Congress ever approved what Trump did.
Well, and I think half the soldiers that sign up to serve wouldn't fully comprehend what the meaning of the word mercenary is in this context. I don't think they would really get it,
Well, I need to look it up.
Yeah.
There's your friend, the dictionary.
Not disrespecting them in any way. I think it's just the education system has so far dumbed us down that I remember the first time hearing you talk about mercenary conflicts back in 2021. And I had to look it up. And I consider myself a pretty well-read woman. Okay. And I had to look up exactly what did you mean by that. And it was like, wow, I had no idea. So
they have dumbed us down and they've poisoned us.
Yep.
They've used and abused our flag. They've used and abused our sons and daughters. They've used and abused our country and its resources. And the bankers are responsible for it all. Because if the bankers hadn't winked and gone along with this, then none of it would exist.
Yeah. Well, gosh, Anna, I just want to do a time check because it's 7:26 California time. So it's 6:26 your time. And we still have 7 hands up.
Well, I see Loretta Pat from Missouri is next.
That's right. Okay, go ahead, Loretta.
Hi, Anna. Okay, let's see here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
My computer's been acting a little wacky tonight. Okay, so during our meeting earlier this evening, we're now looking at the General Assembly. So one of the questions came up regarding the bondsman, and it talks about how he instructs people on how to post bonds, and then he also will that are retained and accounted for by the court. clerk's office and that he's in charge of that particular part of it. So could you just clarify exactly what bonds that he's helping people to be able to post, and how does that work with our courts? Because we know that bonds are with the corporate courts and the administrative courts.
The word bond is the base word of bondage. And so what he's doing is he's collecting a guarantee fee for things like showing up in court at a later date. And so that's what a bond is. And a bail bondsman is the guy who takes that money in and puts it in a safe. That was my corgi, by the way. So that is one of the function of the bail bondsman. They're originally were called bail bondsmen, and they also used to have a function where they could loan bail money to people that were in jail at their discretion. It was almost like being a bookie.
Oh, wow.
You know, you're betting on the horse. Is the horse going to come back to the court or not? You know, and so they actually had kind of a banker function within the court system eons ago. Nowadays, they're sort of there for security, and they continue to take in money on this betting system, and the person pays the bond knowing that they can get their bond money back if they make the court appearance, and that they lose their bond money if they don't make the court appearance. And they also may face having the court issue a warrant for their arrest because they failed to make the court appearance. But this is sort of like guarantee money that the bondsman collects, and that's where we get the word bond and the whole system. You also you have another similar position called a bailiff. And that the bailiff is in the Admiralty and Maritime courts. And he's also there for security. And he may also take money for the bondsman or the clerk. But anyway, what we have is a bond servant who takes other things. It used to be that your word was good enough as your bond. My word is my bond. Okay, so if somebody stood up in court and said, okay, the next part of this trial will take place on April 10th, and I will be there. And that's all he had to do is sign this little statement. You know, in our courts, all you had to do is sign this statement and you were good for it. There was no money collected, and there was no betting on whether you would come or not, and there was no loaning of bond money. There was simply a promise on paper that you would return to the court on a stipulated date. Does that make sense?
It does. So we are collecting money now, and is that what our bondsmen are doing? What exactly then are they collecting?
They're collecting that promise.
Okay, so they're only collecting the autograph when somebody signs the papers.
The word is our word is our bond,
Okay.
because we're honorable, lawful people. And if we say
Okay.
that we're going to be somewhere and do something, we're going to be there and do that, barring some serious catastrophe that prevents us from doing that. And there are always things that can prevent us from fulfilling our bond. You know, for example, say that my dog runs rampant and bites the neighbor's cat. Okay, and we wind up in court. So, and something comes up, and we wind up delaying the court date to a later date. Well, I'm the defendant, and I have to sign this bond saying that I'll be there for that court appearance. Well, okay, time rolls on and we have a Hurricane Helene. And, I'm stuck in the middle of the hurricane and the flood and the damage, and I can't get to court on that day. So there are reasons that someone's bond may be broken that are legitimate. And in that case, that's a force majeure argument where you didn't have any control over it. You couldn't get there from here on that date. Okay. Another one is you're in the hospital under treatment and you can't be released. You're too sick or you're too injured to be there. Okay. So there are certain things that can excuse you even from your own bond. You see, we're human, unlike these corporations, which are things which exist only in the other sphere. We're physical. And so the law that pertains to us has to take that into account. The law that pertains to us has to realize that we have limitations.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And that's all that I have. I yield.
I'll tell you something else that's different about our courts. Our courts represent our public, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what their courts do is a teenager goes out and gets caught writing graffiti on the wall of the public courthouse, say. Okay? What happens? Well, he gets the book thrown at him. He gets a year and a half in a reformatory or jail. Okay? He gets, hard time, real jail time. And throughout that jail time, they're charging us $6,000 to $9,000 a day for keeping that teenager in a jail cell. All right. The graffiti gets cleaned up. And of course, the court keeps the money for getting the graffiti cleaned up. The public gets no benefit at all out of anything. They just get this huge bill. The victim is victimized in their system regularly. It's their modus operandi. So here we are, the public. It's our building that was defaced. We get to pay $6,000 a day for keeping a teenager in jail and supporting them for a year and a half, while the court is collecting that money. The court's getting all that money that we're having to pay out for keeping that teenager in jail. And they're also charging us for cleaning up the building and scraping the graffiti off the wall. So the victim of the crime is the one that gets to pay for it in their system. Isn't that nice of them?
Yeah.
In our system, what happens is that the teenager gets sentenced to public community work. He gets to go down there and scrape the graffiti off the wall.
Yeah.
And then he gets to go help at the library and he gets to, help little old ladies across crosswalks. He gets to do public service. Okay. And if there are any fines, well, then he gets to pay the fine back to the local government to help allay local government expenses, not the court.
Yeah. Makes a lot more sense.
Well, and if somebody is actually harmed, then those who have committed the crime have to work and pay it off. In our system, they don't get to just, sit in jail at our expense.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully they are learning something as they're cleaning up their mess.
Right. Exactly. Ours is a law that is, and a system that is appropriate for living people.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I will let somebody else ask their question. I yield. You have a great.
Take care, Loretta.
Thank you, Loretta. Okay, Sean Pace is up. Go ahead, Sean.
Hi, Anna. I have a question about if a person has gone through the process to become a citizen here from another country and they want to claim their nationality, are they able to do that?
Their prior nationality, like a dual citizen?
No, they want to. So I have a friend, he lives in Florida or on Florida, and he would like to claim his nationality and not be a part of the United States. He's a U.S. citizen, but he wasn't born here on the land and soil here. He was born in Bolivia, but he's been here for like, I don't know, 27 years.
Well, you'd have to look into Bolivia's rules. If Bolivia allows him to continue to be a dual national or dual citizen, then he doesn't have to do anything. He's already a dual citizen or dual national. But every country has different rules. Mexico and Germany, I know for sure, if you're born in Mexico or Germany, you are a Mexican or a German, so far as their government is concerned, forever and ever, amen. So, other countries say that if you leave and go somewhere else and establish a citizenship or national status with the other country, then they sever all ties with you, and you're just like anybody else from that country from then on.
Well, he has an American passport. And
So you're telling me he's fully naturalized in this country and recognized as a U.S. citizen.
right.
And for some reason, he doesn't actually want to come all the way in and establish an American birthright. He doesn't want to be like us. He doesn't want to adopt a state of the union as his home.
No, he does. I'm just saying, can he do that since he wasn't born here? He wants to be a national.
Oh, sure. If he wants to come on board and, adopt California or adopt Maine or, whichever American state he wants to adopt as his home, then all he has to do, if he's already gone through all the paces to be a U.S. citizen, is make a declaration, of his intention to make Florida or, his, that he intends to make Florida his home on a permanent basis,
And would he also be able to start a GFG account?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, yep, that's all. That was the entirety of my question, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, the verbiage is anyone born or naturalized, and he's been naturalized into the United States, right?
Okay.
So if you've gone through all the proper rigmarole and you've gone through your little ceremony where everybody stands around and pledges allegiance and blah, blah, then you are absolutely eligible to adopt a state and be considered, same as everybody else here.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, John Russell.
Good evening again, Anna. I have a question on a real estate agent. He wants to become a state national, and what would happen? He's got to turn his license in, I know, but what would happen about his job after that? Could he do anything, or is he done permanently?
Well, it's like so many other things. You can be a medical doctor or you can be a private physician.
Okay, so it's the same process. He just has to put a sign out there. I do not serve federal people like the doctor would.
Right. Federal citizens accept my services, as stated and at their own risk.
All right. I thank you.
And the other thing is you wouldn't want to call yourself a real estate agent, just like you switch from being a medical doctor to being a private physician.
Correct.
You then would come up with some other description of what you do. I'm not exactly sure what he might choose to call himself, or if there is a established traditional occupational label for that. Maybe it's, you know, a property acquisitions manager.
Yeah, something creative.
You know, now in real estate means royal estate. The word real means royal.
Right.
Okay, so technically, the reason they have real estate agents is so that the people who are doing it can navigate all of the rigmarole of transferring titles within the British title system and trust.
Yeah, I want him to get into researching the patents and help us with that.
Right, the patents are at a different level of things. And that is something that is sorely needed. The patents and the grants. If he's interested in doing that, basically all he has to do is hang up his shingle, and he'll have so much work to do that he won't ever, he'll have clients from all over the country, and he won't have to worry about his bills ever again.
That's what I told him. And so we're working on it. And I thank you, Anna, and have a great night.
Take care, dear.
Thank you, John Russell. All right, we're down to the last three, Anna. Troy, or I don't know if I should be calling you Bob or Troy, but Bob, Troy Brown.
It's Bob. Hi, Anna. How are you?
Hi, Bob.
So my question is, I've had a couple older members coming through, or potential members, that want to change their status, and they have an issue with the witness testimony, either a lack of connections, network. There is some family members that are involved, and they are just not wanting to do the witness statement. So, I've actually even been attached to an email where I actually I view the question of them asking for assistance with the witness statement, and it being returned as, being quite rude as to, no, we're not going to do that. So what I've thought about is, in the instance like this, can the recording secretary, can this, the new person coming in, can they provide like 7 years of, like residency, taxes, utility bills, something like that, that it would actually show the recording secretary at that point that, hey, this man or woman's been on the county or on the land and soil. And then we become their witness statement, and then we just, use a notary.
Now, what the utility bills and tax statements and all that stuff establishes is that you've been here, okay? And if you are someone that was born in another country.
Oh no, they're gonna drink the water.
Well, if it's someone from another country, and they can prove that they've been here for 7 years using utility statements or taxes or whatever, and they have been here for 7 years without accepting public assistance and without committing a felony, then they can become a national. Okay, because that counts as naturalization for the government occupying the land and soil, right? Now, what you're describing to me, it sounds like something quite different, which we very rarely run into, but it's usually people that are in their 80s or 90s.
Yes, it's exactly what it is. And it's not, I mean, I have 2 people like this right now. And then we have a countrywide recording secretary group, and it's actually being spoken about in there as well. So, there's plenty of little cases going on where, there needs to be some sort of a remedy. Even if we need to attest to, them having a prior driver's license or something like that.
Right. Well, if they have a birth certificate, driver's license, this is good material evidence. It doesn't quite do it for the witness statement because, in theory, totally in theory, someone could have a full bunch of documents that have Anna Maria Reisinger on them, right? And someone who's actually named Kathy Gibson adopts my identity. And if there's nobody who can say that, yeah, this particular person is that name, you see, that's why the witness statements are set up the way they are, so that you have to make a visual identification and stipulate that, oh yeah, that's Oscar, you know. Usually what happens is that people aren't thinking that they could get witnesses from other sources. Most people look to their family and think that that's the only possibility. But coworkers, friends that you've known for 7 years, doctors that you've had a relationship with over time, there are a lot of people who can sign a simple statement knowing, yeah, well, I've known him 7 years and this is, to my understanding, this is the person. Okay. And for our purposes, it's not the really draconian status, and all throughout the world we have the same thing. Think about it. The people who know for sure that you were attached to that name and that identity are your parents, older siblings that were old enough to be aware when you were born, classmates, teachers that you had growing up, friends that you made at that time. And by the time you're 80 or 90 years old, guess what? Everybody that was old enough to be able to identify you and actually say with certainty as a firsthand witness that, yeah, that's Oscar. Most of them are gone.
Well, thank you,
And
Anna.
so-
That was the entirety of my questions. Now, I did send an email to you on February 19th, and it's actually in there as
Okay. But if you are elderly and the witnesses have died and you don't have, you know, you're not a member of a church or a club, or you know, you haven't had the same service provider for anything for 7 years who could say, yeah, that's Oscar, you can be accepted under the same sort of force majeure exceptions that I just described for breaking a bond. It's not their fault that their parents are dead when they're 80 years old, okay? It's not their fault that their older siblings and cousins aren't available, or that their grade school teacher isn't alive anymore. It's a force majeure, it's nature. It's just the fact that you're so damned old that none of the firsthand witnesses are available anymore. Okay. So you can go ahead and let them in the door, just based on things like utilities and, you know, birth certificates and things like that. And you can have them sign a little statement of the kind that I described with the bail bond, where they affirm that I am Oscar Schmidt, born in Tecumseh County, Georgia on July 12th, 1931. And so I subscribe and affirm. And that is good enough.
Well, that's fantastic. That's great news. Thank you so much. And I sent an email on 2/19. If you could look back, you know, whenever you get to it. I believe Michelle Ford actually forwarded it as well too.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a great night. Thank you, Anna.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, 2 more, Anna. We've got Dorothea up next and then Glenn.
Okay. I'll make it through. My feet
Hi,
are frozen,
beautiful
but I have a
souls.
corgi. I have a secret weapon. My feet are frozen in this cold and nasty little office here in the hellhole. But I have a very loyal and faithful dog who won't leave me. And so she is under my desk and I'm able to put my feet on the corgi to stay warm.
Oh, that's awesome. Hi, Anna. Hi, all of you. Anna, I have a question regarding also with the secretary paperwork, if that's okay. So, here in Africa, we have these things happening in the sense of the paperwork. There are people on some of our states that can't do a 9 to 8 because of the laws that they have there. They will be getting into lots of trouble, like either going to jail or as far as death penalties in some of our states here. So when they do a 5 to 8, we call it the basic with global. Will that be sufficient for them to get recognized in the sense of when they want to train for secretaries internationally, like with Diana and them?
Basically, you don't have to do the 9 to 8s anymore. You just have to do a very basic claim. And just a second here. I have it right. It's an international thing. It's good in all countries.
So if they only do a 5 to 8, that will be good at this point to just do let them do a basic 5 to 8, and that will stand in the fullness for them, giving them standing.
It's just it's a statement of your intention. Okay, what the simplest way through this internationally in all countries is to go to a public notary or a judge or a mayor, any public or someone serving as a public official. And basically you make yourself up a form like a here it would be just the statement, and then there would be a public notary witness, but it could be a judge, it could be a mayor, it could be a city councilman, it could be, and it's just the person's name, being duly declared and affirming declare my lifetime status and intention to be a national, but not a citizen. And this will work in virtually all countries except Britain.
Wow. Okay. That will help us a lot. And then I would want to just ask one more thing, if that's all right.
Mm-hmm.
We also have like the situation with the autographing. The color of the pen, does it matter if it's red or blue? Or red and blue are both accepted?
Everyone is coming in from the ocean.
So it's blue.
So it's blue, or you can use purple. I like purple. I'm a purple person. So yeah.
Okay, so that I will keep in mind. So because there's just things going around where people get forced to autograph with a certain color pen and saying, no, it has to be this color or that color. I'm like, as far as my knowledge is about this, it's blue. Need to do it in blue.
Once you're operating on the land, which is the result of your action, right?
True.
Once you're operating on the land, then if you are operating in the land jurisdiction as a member of the government, for example, say your assembly starts issuing some sort of affirmation certificate or a credential or something of that sort. Then you need to do the stamps in red.
True.
You'll notice like we go to the post office and they cancel a stamp.
True.
It always is stamped in red, right?
True.
That's why it's that that piece of mail is being sent from the land jurisdiction wherever it's going to land up, So it's the same thing. When you're sending a document from the land to the sea or to the air, okay, or even to another land destination, you use the red ink stamp. Whatever color the signature is, you use the red ink stamp over it, indicating that it's coming from the land.
That's powerful. I know that you once also mentioned that there will come a time when we need to start also standing in the sense of being postmasters, that you will have to handle your own mail in regard to um, certain documents that you will give notice to, let's say, government. So do you think even with the assembly there will be, I know that America has their own postmaster, but in our assemblies here on our different states, is that also something that will come in time that every assembly will have like their own postmaster to handle the mail for the people?
You can act as a postmaster. Globally, in one sense, in one jurisdiction, we are all postmasters. And, think about this. Don't you handle the mail, especially the
True.
outgoing mail?
True.
I mean, don't you buy stamps and apply stamps? Okay, don't you
That's
take
true.
materials from the post office and make use of those? I mean, really, the Universal Postal Union is just a facilitator and carrier of the mail.
True.
Okay, and all those service personnel are hired by one postmaster. And usually
True.
it's a postmaster, one word,
One word,
because
yeah.
because it has to be able to travel by sea and by air and by land. So he can act either as a postmaster on the land or a postmaster all run together on the sea and the air. And there's a logic to this. It's just simple and beautiful once you catch it. If you think about it, their land is fixed, and yet it's universal.
Makes
And
sense.
and the water is fixed, yet it's universal. And the air is universal globally. It's completely borderless. So there's a rationale to all of this, and it was set up that way so that you had a record of where something came from.
That's true. But thank you for everything you're doing. And just know that you are in our thoughts, in our hearts, in our prayers with the journey you're walking with. And I don't think I can say it enough in my own heart. Thank you for everything, Anna. Our people here are learning a lot, and it's a journey for all of us. But I know in the end, we are victorious because of who we are and how we've been created. But have an amazing evening. Take care of yourself.
Take care, dear.
Thank you, Dorothea. And whatever you did with your microphone, thumbs up. Okay, Glenn, go ahead, Glenn.
Thank you, Michelle. Good evening, Anna. Glenn on Palm Beach. On March 3rd, we received Ralph Moore's retirement letter, stating that it was effective the same day of March 3rd. However, tonight we had our assembly meeting and he chaired the meeting on March 5th. One, I'd like to know if that's allowed.
Well, don't you have, I think you have more than one coordinator, don't you?
We have no coordinators. He was the chair and we have a vice chair. And he says that the vice chair is going to be stepping into his position. And the General Assembly would like to know if we can nominate and elect a new chair or a new coordinator first, which is something that you recommended last time we spoke, was to get a coordinator or liaison in the position. Since we at this time we don't have a chair. But again, because there's a move on the table that he's tabled now for the 5th week in a row, he is not allowing any new business or any moves to be placed. And we tried to do one of the assembly members tonight did a move to accept his retirement and his resignation. And he would not allow it to be second, saying that because there's a move on the table that's been tabled, no new moves are allowed. Is it necessary to accept it? One, and two, does Giles, the vice chair, automatically move into his position, or do we get to nominate somebody new?
Well, what was your intention and what description did you have of the vice chair when you adopted the office?
So the vice chair has been in that position for over 6 years, when it was a very small assembly and it was just a group of people, and they voted each other in. And today we have a much larger assembly, and I think it's time for the assembly to voice its opinion on things.
Well, normally when you set up a position, an elected position, whether a large group elected or a small group elected, you have a term of office that runs for a specific number of years. You have a description of what the position is and how it functions with relation to any higher office. I mean, certainly there is a tradition. It is reasonable and customary in the West, for example, a vice president to succeed a president. Okay. But if you had a stipulation on the vice president's office, then it was for a 4-year term and it's now 6 years, you see, the simplest way out of it, if you don't have a clearly stated description of what the vice chair's position is and does, right, is to get a coordinator and just have a coordinator step in and chair the meetings and, kind of help you through this segue so that you can continue to move your business forward. Because otherwise you're just going to get stuck in this loop of, nobody knows who's who or what's what or by what right they're functioning.
And that's exactly what we'd like to do, but because they are not allowing any moves, we can't even bring a move to nominate a coordinator.
No state nominates coordinators. Coordinators are not state officials. Coordinators are ASNs, they're people from your state who raise their hand and say, okay, I'll volunteer. And then they go through vetting and training, just like training here tonight, getting their questions answered and learning what to take back and what to do. And they act as the go-between between the state assembly and the federation. So they can chair meetings. They can be there. They can chair meetings. They can also help sort through these sorts of conundrums. If there's no provision that the vice chair succeeds the president in the event of the president's death, or the chairman's death, disability, or retirement, you could just accept the custom and tradition that the vice chair would serve in the event of the chairman's death, disability, or retirement. And at that point, the name of the vice chair is
Giles King.
Giles King. Okay, so Giles King would then enter upon the office of the Assembly Chairman. Having an Assembly Chairman doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have a coordinator too, by the way. But what it means is then whatever term of office that your Assembly Chairman was presently serving would be served out by the Vice Chair ascending to the Assembly Chairman position. So, for example, if Ralph was elected to the chairman's position for a term of 2 years and served a year of that, then Giles would step in and serve out Ralph's term. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I understand that. So you're saying that as long as we have a volunteer to be the coordinator and that volunteer gets vetted by the state or by the federation?
By the Federation.
Okay.
Which is a pretty simple process. They do need to be trained, but they can serve as a coordinator while receiving training.
And who do we contact at the federation to let the federation know who that person is to get vetted?
Well, you'd have to let me or Paul Pappas or Shannon Bookie know, and we could get that expedited for you. And that would at least give you someone who could chair meetings without any question. And you know, at this point, even advanced assemblies that have a lot of members and that have elected a chairman, until they're absolutely 100% on their feet and functioning, they should have a liaison with the Federation and take advantage of the knowledge and support that's available through the Federation. They should have someone acting as a coordinator for the state assembly, because remember, a coordinator is just a go-between. And a lot of, for some reason, some state assemblies think that the Federation is the enemy and they equate us with the federal government when we're not the federal government. We're American.
Right.
Okay, it's a whole different level, a whole different thing. So if you can get the difference between federation and federal straightened out in the minds of your membership, then it becomes a no-brainer that you should be able to call up and ask somebody when you have questions. Make sure that you're doing things right so that you don't have to go back and do them again. You know, it's just practical. And so I would suggest that you get a coordinator in place, whether you accept Giles in terms of custom and tradition to serve out the rest of Ralph's term, or if you want to get past the impasse created by your rules of order. Did you adopt Robert's Rules of Order, I take it, or?
It has not been adopted. We're using parts of it that they choose to use and parts that they don't want to use. And when we've brought, as the assembly, when I say we, has brought up different parts of Robert's rules, they say we don't follow that. But when they do want it, they follow it. So it goes both ways.
Well, if they didn't adopt it, it doesn't apply. If the General Assembly did not vote to adopt Robert's Rules of Order or some other, you know, there are some simpler rules of order too, but you have to vote. You have to vote on that. You can't just kind of use it on an ad hoc basis and then use that to block assembly business.
Right. Well, again, the issue here is that they're not allowing us to vote or elect at this time, and this has been going on for quite some time.
Well, Ralph is just going to have to wrap his head around the fact that being an assembly chairman does not give him the right to impose rules of order that were never voted on by the assembly.
Everything that's been created, I mean, Ralph has been there as I think 7 years, and he's pretty much created any documents, any rules of order, and they were never voted on by the General Assembly.
See, he can't do that. You know, you adopt rules of order to be able to promote the progress of business, not to block it. And unfortunately, there are some things in those rules of order that do allow two blocking. But if you've never even put it before the assembly to adopt the rules don't apply. You know, you see what I mean?
Absolutely. We've tried to form a committee to review those documents so that we can then present them to the General Assembly, and they keep saying they don't need to be voted on. If we vote on everything that there is, we'll never get anything done. But we need to get the basics taken care of. And
Yeah, that is fundamental. That is fundamental. And by the way, I don't, for the kind of work that our assemblies do, there are much simplified versions of Robert's rules. And I would suggest that the assemblies look at those much simpler versions that are just for expediting business instead of politicking. Because parliamentary procedure has grown into a gigantic morass on its own over the years. And it can be used in ways that do not promote progress. And so I would highly encourage you to look at simplified rules of order, which you can just look it up on the net, simplified rules of order. And there, you know, Roberts is not the only simplified version out there too. You know, there are simplified versions of Robert's rules of order, and then there are entirely different systems of rules of order. And you should really look at and choose rules of order that are simple, easy to understand, and don't promote politicking. And then just, you know, report back to the General Assembly, say, okay, well, we looked at these and these and these and these rules of order. And our research indicates that this is a good, simple, useful way to conduct business and promote the conduct of business. Blah, 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 blah. Here's why. And ask the assembly to vote on it. Because until the assembly votes on having rules of order, it's just been used on an ad hoc basis to, you know, help conduct business in the interim.
again, he's using this tabled move for 5 weeks to stop all business and any voting. So we don't know how to get around that, because as soon as we bring anything up about forming a committee or making a move for something else, and now there needs to be a transition committee. He needs to turn everything he has over. And does it automatically just go to Giles, or can we have a committee to review all the documentation and decide maybe this goes to a recording secretary, this should go, because he was doing everything himself.
Well, I know Ralph has been very devoted for a long time and brought the Florida Assembly along a long way. But I also know that he's tired of it. I know that he's put in a lot for a long time and needs to take a break for his own sake. He told me as much himself. So certainly a big thank you to Ralph and appreciation for all his work, and just, you know, distributing different functions to other officers makes total sense, because it's way too much for one person.
Absolutely.
I'm sure Michelle would agree as she doggedly pants along behind the wagon and does her best. You know, it's a tremendous amount of work. And so what happens normally as a assembly progresses from that small little seed group into a larger and larger organization is that the committees pick up more and more of the work. You elect a secretary for the assembly who helps with the record keeping. You elect your own notaries to, you know, do witnessing work, and you have your court officials, of course, and everything gets kind of spread out. And that process can be confusing. It can be, it can go off track and cause you problems. And that's why I say you should have a liaison with the Federation, so that when you get into situations that you have questions about, you can get answers that are reliable. But certainly if the Georgia Assembly, not Florida, Florida Assembly.
Florida.
Yeah, if the Florida Assembly never actually voted on adopting rules of order, then the rules of order that are obstructing action do not apply. They cannot be enforced without your consent, and nobody ever gave their consent.
So can we just demand a vote on something if a move is brought forward then? Or do we're trying to keep decorum and not overstep our bounds, but we don't want to be stifled either.
Well, I just told you there are no rules of order.
Mm-hmm.
They were
Okay.
never adopted. You've been using rules of order, but that's different than adopting them.
Right.
And so there's really nothing keeping the General Assembly from moving forward and, you know, putting committees together and investigating things and conducting business as normal. You might use the customary and traditional progression where the vice chairman, who was obviously elected as vice chairman some time ago, to fill out Ralph's term. But if the term of office was not defined, you're not obligated to that either. Because those relationships, vice and, well, like vice president and president, they are determined on terms of office. And if you didn't have stated terms of office for the chairman and vice chairman, then even that is not, it's not a requirement, because then what you would be doing is you would have had a chairman for life being replaced by a vice chairman who would also then serve for life, and no, that doesn't work.
Right.
So.
And can assembly vote in a vice chair when they didn't have a chair? Because Ralph was the coordinator up until August of 25, but Giles was voted in as a vice chair 5 years ago, in 21, I believe.
Well, again, if you didn't stipulate a term of office, none of that applies. You can't have officers for life in the American government.
Hmm.
Doesn't
Okay.
work that way.
Well, I thank you, Anna, for your time.
Okay.
And staying on this long. Appreciate it. Have a good night. I yield.
Well, thank you all for being here. I hope we covered some useful information for you and gave you things to think about. Hopefully here this week we'll be doing the official ceremonials and be distributing badges to our Continental Marshals so that they will be easy to recognize. And, you know, for what happened earlier this evening, unfortunately, is typical of the kinds of attacks and things that you suffer when you're trying to conduct business in the public and you have to deal with the public, which can be very rude and very ungrateful and make a lot of wrong assumptions and tell lies about you. And, you know, you just have to kind of stand there and take it and get used to it. So it's a very thankless thing. But as I said earlier, in describing the American system, we do it as a duty, not because it's a plum or because it's easy, but because somebody has to step forward and toe the rope and do the work. And certainly I'm sorry to see Ralph go, because Ralph has been a great organizer and help to the Florida Assembly, and I wish him great progress and health and wealth and happiness as he steps down as the chairman. And I hope that we have a new coordinator there to help the assembly through this transition, and that they will continue to have a liaison going forward with the Federation. One thing I do want to say, that recently there have been several different situations where the assemblies have not sought answers through their coordinators or through their assembly chairs. that they should have asked about. They just would have saved themselves a lot of extra trouble and worry and gone directly to doing what was needed. So don't be afraid to contact members of the Federation staff. We are very busy, but so are you. And all of this work has to get done in tandem. So if you've got something that is troubling your assembly and you just need an answer, pick up the phone and send out the email. And if you don't get an answer, send it again, because as I say, sometimes I get thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of emails, and things can get buried. So then you just have to, if you don't hear back in, 2-3 days, send it again. Just forward it again. Sooner or later, I'll see it. Sooner or later, it'll get passed on to someone, and we'll continue on from there.
May I say something before we go, Anna?
Sure.
It's Dorothea. I just wanted to share this, and I hope this will lift the spirits of all of you. This week, I really got very much powerful encouragement from, I call it from our Creator. Just sharing in the fact that if you are moving as a living soul, claiming the fullness of who you are, knowing who you are, then you will move in that power and not feel that you need to keep on asking or having people accepting you, wanting to be feeling part of, because all of that is already written within your heart, within your soul about who you are. It's for us to just kind of accept that and just move in that. Then you don't have to look around feeling like I'm alone in this, because you are not. There are so many amazing souls out there that is rising up into the knowingness of who they are. And they're not going to ask any more permission. They're not going to stand and say, what do I need to do? Because they know what they need to do. They know what the work is ahead. And they will take hands with the souls that are so much empowered with the knowingness of who they are. And in the end, that is something that got shown to me very powerfully this week. You don't have to stand and say, do I have to, can I, may I? Because you already know what you need to do, and you will just move in that. So I just want to encourage the souls here, just rise up to the knowingness of who you are. You are equipped, you are able, and everything that you need is within you to create because of who you are and who He is within you, working through you to be able to create what needs to get done. So, souls here, you have it. You can do it. Anna has done it. She has laid the pattern. Us here on different parts of world, we just need to take it and do the best we can with it in the parts where you're at. You can do it. You are capable of, otherwise you would have not founded these platforms and people that are like-minded. So I just needed to share that. Thank you for your hard work. We in Africa, we are realizing that in our assembly, that we can do it. And we're not going to stand back anymore asking, begging, feeling that we need to be part of because we are already. We're just going to move with that. Thank you again.
Yes, remember your 33 trillion volts of electricity, then multiply that by 10 billion times that in the magnetic force that you can create. You are all wondrously made and constructed of thin air. You are energetic beings, and you control vast amounts of energy. You are miracles, and you're miracle workers. So you have a lot more to offer and a lot more to be, a lot more to give, a lot more to discover. And if you have time, look up the core beliefs of Zoroastrianism, and there are several good, I would say, like documentaries on YouTube about Zoroastrianism, and realize that you're looking at probably the oldest belief system in the world. This is where we came from. And it's all about the love of truth. Okay, guys, well, thanks for all of you coming and being here and sitting up late with me. And I will see you all next week, God willing. And Creek Don't Rise. Sending you lots of love across the miles.
Thank you, Anna. Good night.
Good night.
Hey, Michelle, we got a minute?
Hi, Sean. Sure thing.
So with what happened earlier, is somebody posting your link on that Telegram channel with all the links? I was just, usually
don't
this
know.
one's kind of a tight knit group and not like it's for everybody that wants to attend within reason, but if it got posted somewhere like that, then there'd be way more people looking at that than would be needing to be on here. So I don't know.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if anybody outside of our call ends up sharing it elsewhere.
Yeah, I
But,
understand.
I send out an invite once a week, and I would just request that everybody be responsible, that if you're going to get the link, it's because you are being invited. I'm saying you as in everybody, not just
Yes.
one, but
Yes, each individual person that gets the link is invited.
yeah. And so I just ask for everybody's protection over our meeting. This is our meeting, and this is not a public meeting. And so let tonight be a lesson that for our own self-governance as an important group of people doing this incredible work, that we're going to protect the sanctity of this meeting. So if, you're all invited in good faith and you're all here, and there are still a number of people in the waiting room. So I'm just going to ask that when you join in the call next week, everybody, please be sure to have your full name and your state. I'll be sure to put my state on there as well. And this will help when I'm allowing people to come into the meeting. There's at least some level of accountability. And in the meantime, Shannon is jumping on the case to figure out who the heck did that, so that they can be dealt with outside of this meeting. But I appreciate what you just said, Sean, and I agree. Yeah, we've got to make sure that we keep each other safe on this meeting. We don't have a marshal at arms per se. And if we need to get one, that's fine too. But for now, thankfully, we were able to reconvene under a different link in relatively short order, but still, the bummer about seeing something like that is that you can't unsee it, right? So I pray for all of us that our memory of that will just be wiped clean, and that our minds and bodies and souls will remain undefiled, and we will return with clean hearts, clean minds, and integrity level increased because of what.
Thank you.
Because of
Great
what.
job too. Fantastic.
Thank you, Sean.
Great job, Michelle. We appreciate everything you do for us.
God bless you. Thank you, John Russell.
Have a good night.
You too. Now I see, Ralph, you have a hand up. Did your hand go up? Ralph on Georgia? You're muted.
You just have to hit the space bar.
All right. right, last call, Ralph.
Michelle,
Yep. Hi, Glenn.
question for you.
Sure.
About the 2026 deal coming
Yes.
up.
Mhm.
I want to get with you at some point, and probably Lisa, to go over a couple things I have questions on. When would be the best time for that?
Let's email because I'll just need to kind of get present with my calendar. Most likely like a late Saturday morning, something like that. Or after work, a different, during the week, like on a Tuesday night, probably.
Okay. All righty. I was going to send an email, and I figured, but you're here, I'll just ask you.
Awesome. Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you for all you do, Michelle.
You got it. Thank you.
Hey, Glenn, late Saturday morning works for me. Tuesday nights don't. So, okay.
Okay.
All righty.
Michelle, may I?
Okay. Yes. Oh, good. Go ahead, Ralph.
I just wanted to say thank you for the invite to the meeting. And I just want to say I appreciate everyone. And I had all my paperwork done in August, and probably about 6 months to a year, I was just looking, reading, finding, having so many questions about things, always knew something was wrong somewhere, just didn't know where to look, where to find. And I got in touch with some folks, and they were giving me information. I finally got all my paperwork in August, and I'm here now. And I just wanted to say thank you for the invite, and I appreciate what you and everyone is doing. And Anna, of course, and just to always be encouraging to one another to just keep moving forward, because this is going to happen. And the initial work of getting this started was not for no reason. And just to stay on point and stay on guard, and we just help our assemblies with their struggles, and everybody just continue to grow and develop and become the best living man and living woman that we can be. And so I'm just giving my appreciation. And all those people who say horrible things about Anna, well, they're people who are not well, and people who don't appreciate kindness that other people share and give and offer. And so I just wanted to state that and express my appreciation. And with that, I yield.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ralph. Thank you for sharing. Congratulations on getting all your paperwork done. And thank you for being the kind of man that gets engaged. Not everybody has to get engaged and do this, and step down technically to be of service. So thank you for being willing to get yourself trained and studied and all of it. So, and thank you for the kind words.
I'm not going anywhere. I yield.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you next week. Obviously, get rid of the old link. You might as well delete it. We're not going to be using that one anymore. And just stay tuned on your emails. I'll be sending out a brand new link starting next week. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Michelle. Have a great night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Sean. Good
Thanks,
night.
Michelle.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Michelle.
Michelle. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Night, everybody.
Good night, all.
Bye. Bye, David. Bye, Elle.
Hey, Michelle.
Good night.